Hey guys, it's your girl A-Chic, aka geekxxchic. This is a review for the latest episode of The Flash, and this one, it was good. I think we finally got some real movement in this plot, which I feel like has been dragged out entirely too long this season, but I complained about that before, so I won't get into it too much now. Really like that we got some real movement with this whole Cicada thing, and that we have the end of Dwyer. I mean, I'm sorry y'all, but I just can't take much more of Chris Klein's acting in this particular work. Like, I enjoyed him in American Pie. I don't know why that Chris Klein isn't in this version of The Flash, but anyways, we no longer have to deal with that. We now have Grace, who kind of equally talks as wooden and slow, but not quite as bad as Chris Klein, so there's that. Yeah, it was interesting to see more of the story around how Grace's parents actually died, to find out that the meta that killed them, it wasn't something she did intentionally, but of course, again, potentially she had turned herself in or said something. Maybe Grace would have felt differently about it, but you know, from her eyes, we can see now how for her it looked like this person had set this bomb up and her poor parents went and, you know, accidentally caught the brunt of this terrible thing that happened. Interesting as well to see how all of that hate speech and that anger and those dark emotions that Orlin was feeling, how he just kind of, you know, just pumped them into Grace for, you know, almost a year, and unfortunately, you know, laying in that coma with no chance of dialogue. And of course, she also had Ambrose there, Dr. Ambrose, who was equally feeding that into her head. You know, it's a very formative time of a child's life, and unfortunately, you know, we see that Grace carried that with her throughout life. Now, it's interesting to find out when she would have woken up, because I was right about my one theory that was Grace from the future. She must have woken up at some point, and I guess no one realized just how bad things were. I guess the other thing we could look at, and that's the other theory I'm looking at, is that, you know, this chip is in her head, right? It's in her head, it's affecting her brainwaves, so maybe Grace really isn't quite this evil. Like, I'm not surprised she killed Orlin, but in a way I am, because Orlin is her last living family member, and she seemed like she was doing all of this out of her own appreciation for the love and the care that Orlin had given her. But the fact that she in the end decides to kill him because he doesn't want to be a murderer anymore, that was pretty deep. So that makes me think that this is no longer really Grace, that this thing in her head is pretty much taken over. What will happen, what will have to happen to her is going to be very interesting. It's going to be one of those things, though, I think, where they're going to have to take care of it now. Like, Grace of the future is gone. I think she's a lost cause as far as them trying to bring her back or redeem her. She's definitely going to try to kill the Flash, because I have no doubt that in her mind she's going to blame the Flash for her Uncle Orlin turning out the way that he did. So in order for this to all end, and also the psychic link she has with Nora, I'm not sure where they're going with that or why it would be of import at this point, especially if Nora can't use it to her advantage. But I'm just figuring whatever they got to do, they got to do it now. Now, of course, me, who's been watching a lot of like Walking Dead and, you know, all the Game of Thrones and stuff like that, you know, I'm savage, you know me. Now I'm just like, get rid of Grace. Just get rid of her right now. She's in a coma, just get rid of her. She can't hurt nobody in the future. But obviously that's entirely too dark for the Flash, so we're not gonna be doing that anytime soon. But I think it's just, obviously whatever they do, they've got to do it now. She's in this coma, we don't know for how much longer. I'm really surprised actually as well that Grace didn't think to hide her past self. Like, I would have thought the first place she would have gone is the hospital, grabbed her past self and put her somewhere to make sure that no one could ever get to her. But then again, she may not understand enough about time travel and how it all works, since she used the time traveling hamster wheel to come to the past. But anyway, it'll be interesting to see what they have to do to get her. My guess is they're gonna have to stop her from ever becoming the next Cicada. That's the only thing they can do, and maybe there's still time to bring her around, but I do believe it would require the removal of that chip in some way, shape, or form. So we'll have to see what happens with that, if we even deal with it this season, because we are pretty far in. This is episode, what, 17? And I think this means there may be another 5 episodes, 6 maybe left. So yeah, we gotta start wrapping this baby up. It's taken a long time for us to get here, which kind of goes into, at the beginning, Nora talking to Thawne and saying like, hey, what am I gonna do? There's a new Cicada, what's gonna happen? And Thawne did not look at all surprised, which, I mean, first of all, of course, he's in the future, so he already knows what happened, but he didn't seem perturbed. Do you know what I mean? Like, he just kind of sat there and he's like, yeah, well, I saw what happened. That seems like a conundrum. And then he sits down calmly, looks at his clock, which is down to 12 minutes, and he's like, I'm out of time. Tell your dad. So that makes me think that, as I said, I do believe that Thawne, you know Thawne. Thawne's always got plans within plans and layers within layers. And there's nothing that makes me believe for a second that he actually wants to help the Flash or do anything to truly benefit the Flash at all. or if he does, it's gonna have to be at some kind of twisted price. And so now he had to know, having Nora tell her dad about this, although obviously he didn't. Also, I do believe that Thawne figured out that Sherlock would figure out, because remember he said about 3 or 4 episodes ago, he said to Nora like, oh, there's always a Wells and the Wells are really, really smart. Right? Because he kind of told her like, oh, you should try to throw Sherlock off your trail or whatever. But I think if he was really seriously worried about Sherlock's part in all of this, he would have told Nora to do something more serious, like, or would have orchestrated things so that Sherlock would be taken out of the equation entirely, because that's the way Thawne worked, right? If there was a problem, he killed it. He didn't dance around it. He would just get rid of it if it got too close. So I think he absolutely anticipated that Sherlock was going to figure out Nora's whole thing sooner than later, and if Nora didn't have the guts to come clean, then he knew Sherlock was going to do it, and he had to know that like that was going to be a huge dagger in Barry's heart. And we all know that the way that Eobard likes to hurt Barry the most is emotionally, right? Because he can't kill the Flash. And I say can't in the sense of, in the comics, for those of you who are the comic fans, you know this way better than I do, of course, but I've read about him in the comics, and they basically say that Thawne's obsession with Barry is such that it's so much that he can't kill Barry, because without a Barry, he just doesn't even know what to do with himself. But he also hates Barry, so the only way he can kind of satiate this weird obsession he has is to cause Barry pain and to hurt him or to do things to get to him. And so this is a great weapon for him to have his daughter come from the future and then find out that not only has he been his puppet the whole time, but that he got her to lie about it, right? And then used all of them from a completely different timeline and dimension. So obviously, big slap in the face to Barry yet again, using his own child against him. Like I said this from when we found out it was Thawne, that wow, this is gonna hurt Barry a lot. And that's exactly what Thawne wanted. He got his desired effect out of all of that. So interesting to see what his plans are. I thought at first maybe Nora was gonna let him out or get him out of wherever that cell is. Like maybe that was his secondary plan, but I think things are working out exactly the way Thawne wanted. What I'm thinking would be an ultimate kick in the teeth is if somehow the only way to fix this nonsense, Thawne has orchestrated it so that Barry actually has to be the one to break him out. I feel like that might be where we're going, that Barry's gonna have to do the one thing he would never want to do, which is let Thawne out of prison and let him go free again. Knowing that not only did his daughter get used by this man, but that he have to be the one to let Thawne go. That would be like yet another kick, like a kick to the other nut. You know what I mean? Nora was the one, and then this would be the other. This, I don't know. It's completely speculation, but I would not be surprised if that's what they end up having poor Barry do sometime before the end of the season. Because I bet you anything that Thawne probably knows exactly how to stop Grace. He probably knows exactly a weakness or some way to do it. But as I said before, I'm really worried about this neural link that's between Nora and this girl. Something tells me that if we try to hurt Grace, it's gonna hurt Nora. And I've been saying this, and I know y'all don't want to hear it. I know a lot of y'all don't want to hear it because you're big fans of Nora, and I really like her too. But I just have this feeling Nora's not coming out of this season. I just have a feeling, and this neural link that she's got with Grace, guys, I don't know. I don't know if we're gonna keep having a Nora here. I mean, I obviously want this whole thing, you know, for her and Barry and Iris to be back on the same page and be in a happy place if it turns out that way. But at this moment, I don't think that this neural connection is gonna work out to be a good thing as far as taking care of the whole Cicada thing. Finally, I guess that the other two things that kind of were touched on, there was of course the whole thing with Cisco and his relationship. It's understandable why Cisco wants to keep these worlds apart, because his job is very dangerous and they are constantly, like pretty much every week, dealing with people who try to kill them and come after the people that they love. So I completely understand Cisco wanting to keep this really nice, normal thing, and also a way to keep her safe, or in his mind thinking of keeping her safe by keeping her ignorant. But Ralph was dropping, you know, pearls of wisdom, and he basically said it's true that this is a huge part of Cisco's life. So if he really wants to have a real relationship with this girl, he can't be keeping such a huge part of his life walled off from her. She will eventually figure out that there's, you know, a wall, and if she's smart, she's probably gonna have an issue with that at some point and be like, listen, either you know, you gotta let me in, or if this isn't gonna be as deep as it is, you know, as you think it is, then let me know and I can move along, kind of thing. So we'll see. They haven't given a lot of time to this relationship, so I don't know how far they plan on going with it. But again, we still have no idea what's going on with Cisco and this whole meta cure thing, because they still seem to be going this theme of Cisco wanting a normal life back, even though he's back to using his vibing to help people. So I don't know. I'm really just gonna let a lot of what's going on with Cisco go right now. Just now that I know that a new showrunner is coming, I'm really less concerned with whatever happens right now, because I feel like we might get a lot of tonal shifts in season 6. So that's why I'm not gonna delve too much into it. But I do think they're cute from what I have seen, and it's nice to see Cisco finally kind of making his way away from the whole gypsy thing. And yeah, I think at some point he is gonna have to tell, what's her name, starts with the K. Anyways, you have to tell her, Camilla, about this at some point, and I think she's gonna be fine with it. I mean, anyone who's lived in Central City at this point for this long, you gotta deal with the fact that there's probably a 1 in 10 chance you're gonna date a meta. So if she ain't down, then she needs to take herself off the dating apps, you feel me? Finally, we have the whole thing with, of course, that revelation at the end. We all knew it was gonna be harsh. Oh my gosh, as much as I love seeing Grant and Barry happy, you know, I live for when Grant gets to show us his emotional range. And yeah, the welled up tears, so well done, with his eyes getting all welled up with just the pain of hearing the truth. Iris just being like, oh, please don't tell. Because I think Iris deep down has had a feeling that things have been off for a while, but she's let her love of Nora kind of put these rose-colored glasses on her and ignoring that niggling feeling the entire time. But hearing this confirmation that her gut was right about this has got to be, again, a kick to Iris's gut. And I mean, obviously seeing Barry this hurt is not going to be good for her. So that was really sad. And again, as I said, I'm just so frustrated that Nora didn't have the balls to tell her parents herself. I get it though. We all have been there where we've had a secret or we've done something and we feel like the people who might be affected by it will be so hurt by hearing it that like we're just paralyzed with fear about telling them. As we saw, as they brought out as a theme throughout the entire episode, secrets often are not for the benefit of anyone, right? A lot of times, particularly with people you care about or secrets that pertain to people you care about, it's a dangerous game to try to keep them, because a lot of times they do come out anyways, and depending on how they come out, they can be far more hurtful than if you just told the truth. And Nora learned that the hard way. You know, she's in timeout in the pipeline right now because of it. It's understandable. It's understandable. Barry probably feels super betrayed right now because, again, it didn't come from Nora. And what was worse is she kept trying to get Sherlock to stop. I understand why. Like, she was probably like, ooh. But even if she in that moment said, please, Sherlock, I'll tell them, please let me be the one to do it, it would have even looked better. But it just looked like she was continuing to try to hide the truth. It just, none of it looked good on her. None of it looked good on her. But again, as we saw with this episode, with the Meta and her daughter, who she accidentally hurt with her powers and all that stuff, like, families, that's the way it goes, right? True families, when you got that deep love, you get hurt by people you care about all the time. It's not always intentional, but even when it is, or when they've done something that could have been avoided, you know, when that love is there and that person is truly sorry for what they've done, you know, it's really hard not to forgive them. And that, like I said, that baseline of love is what will get you through it. And I've no doubt, we know Barry's got the biggest heart in the world, and so does Iris and Joe. So it's not like this is gonna last forever, but yeah, she's gonna have to feel the sting of that disappointment that Barry's feeling right now. And she is gonna have to work at building their trust back, because she did come in with a lot of, and she's had so many opportunities. You know, she's lied a few times and they kind of let them go. So it's going to be an uphill battle for Nora, but we don't have a lot of episodes to watch her do all this and build it all back. So it's going to be very interesting to see how we handle this relationship over the next few episodes, along with dealing with this whole issue with Cicada. But one thing's for sure is that they do all have to work together now, because Grace senses that there's any kind of dissension in the ranks here with these guys. There is no doubt that she's going to use that to her advantage to try to drive a further wedge there, or worse, take one of them out. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle it over the next couple of episodes while we get closer to the finale. And yeah, we'll see how it all goes down. What did you guys think of this episode? How do you feel about this whole situation? About how do you think that Barry's gonna handle this going forward? Do you think he's gonna be a little upset for a couple of episodes? Do you think Iris is gonna be the one to defend Nora to her dad? Or do you think she might be the one who's gonna be actually the harshest one to deal with all of this because Nora lied to her and hurt her man? Please leave your comments below. I'm interested in hearing what you guys have to say and getting involved in that conversation. And if you like this video, guys, please click like. And if you want to see more from this geeky face, please click subscribe. Until next time, see ya.